I would watch a lot of demonstrations by artists who would just demanded perfect silence, wouldn't say a word. And I get it. It's hard to concentrate, but you want to just ask them, why did you do that? Why did you use this pencil? Why are you using that? You're just filled with questions that you wish they would at least try to answer. So that's when I started teaching, was a decision I made right out of the gate, that even if it was difficult or awkward, I was going to do my best. To explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, as best I can. I'm not 100% altruistic. It also kind of helps me. I think we do a lot of things as visual people, as artists, that we don't really think about. We just do them because we think they work, and maybe they do. But sometimes they're just habits. We just do them because that's what we did before. And if you're forced, or you force yourself to say out loud why you do the things you do, maybe you give yourself the opportunity to self-analyze and think, oh, is that the best way I could do this or that? It might be, but there may be alternatives. So in a way, I'm teaching myself too. When I hear myself drone on and on about why I do what I do, I hate the sound of my own voice, of course, so when I listen, it's just an opportunity to say, oh, all right, well, that makes sense. Or alternatively, what in the hell were you doing? That didn't make any sense at all. Why did you do that? So yes, my endless blathering as I paint is hopefully helpful to you in some ways, but it's helpful for me as well. So there's these picturesque, beautiful bits of antiquity just lying about on the ground. As far as my painting, I'm not going to attempt to draw all of them precisely where they're found, but I'm going to pick and choose and try to design some that I think will enhance the image without detracting or distracting too much. I remembered I showed a painting I had done of the Arch of Septimius some years ago to my then much younger nephew, and he said, nice painting, but why don't they clean up their yard? And he was looking at all these priceless bits of antiquity just scattered about the forum. Yes, why don't you clean up your yard? It's a mess. So yeah, I'm being a little careful with the drawing. A little bit more than I might be. I think it's going to inform the kind of painting I end up doing, meaning hopefully I'm going to allow much of this drawing to show through the final result and become part of the final image. I'm often asked, do I erase my pencil drawings? And no, I don't. Drawing is all part of my process, as they say. So yeah, I want it to be part of the final painting. And in this specific case, I think a little bit more than normal. I want if I'm going to the effort of doing this much careful drawing, then I definitely want it to be part of the final painting design. Again, as I said earlier, it can be a problem. I mean, you can draw too much or in such a way that you paint much more carefully and slowly and tight. And I'm not going to say that's always bad, but it's often is bad or not desirable. I think it's finding the level for the specific painting that works, but also that works for you, for your aesthetic, for your taste. For me, I love, as I said, my drawings to show through in my paintings, but probably only up to a certain point, maybe at 30%, 40% or so. I mean, there's not a formula. It can vary, but I want them to be as much part of the finished, the end result, as they are for me as the guy doing them. So as I get into the background buildings here, as I said in my intro, I want these to be here to flesh out the composition, to add some, I hope, interesting contrast, but not so much or so detailed that they will distract or detract from the final. So I'm thinking about that and reducing the amount of detail, the amount of lines. This creature here, of course, is the focal point. But I love this geometry of shapes. Paintings in general, I love that. And if they include elements of architecture, I very much, almost always at least, don't want to do building portraits or paintings that make buildings look like the only object worth looking at in the painting. What I'm saying with too many words is I want them to look like they're part of a context. The building in context with its site, with its setting, both physical and non-physical. So by that I mean the negative shapes, the spaces you see through the columns, the atmosphere and the sky above and below, the subject, all of these things come into play and are important to me. There's a lot more buildings back here, but I don't want to emphasize them. I think they're going to, I'd run the risk of them detracting or distracting. So I'm just going to very generically sketch them in and maybe add some more landscape elements. Some of these beautiful pine trees, cypress and other pines you see around Rome. They're not in the reference photos, but that's okay. So again, way in the distance is the cupola of Santa Maria. I want it here as a shape, but I definitely don't want it to become too focal. So I'm just going to treat it as a big, simple shape, not detail it. literally at all. Nothing is at a right angle, so the geometries you might see of these buildings may not be in line with our temple, but that's okay. I mean, everything's just sort of built haphazardly. It looks like askew and not quite, we're not in Midtown Manhattan, that's for sure. I think that's enough. Any other so-called detail, I can just allow my paintbrush to add it on if I think it's needed. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with this amount of drawing. I don't think it needs more. I don't think it's too much. Obviously, it was a little heavier here, a little more precise on purpose. But again, even that is a little bit of looseness. The rest of this is very sketchy, so should be okay. And now I can just train myself to stop and call it quits until it's time for color. So I'm going to set up my palette now and join you back here in a moment. I want to show you the reference photo to show you that, yeah, it is related, of course. It hopefully looks like the same place, but it feels a bit different. It feels, I think, a little more grand, a little bit more elegant, a little bit more dramatic than the reference photo. And I was fairly true to my composition and my setup sketch. So it should be good to go. Again, I'm going to set up my palette and I'll see you back here soon.